I don't know if I've shown this to you guys before. This is fencing. I really don't remember. But you can see I've got some up there too. When I planted the raspberries, I put fencing down on the ground, and then I put rabbit manure, and then I put mulch on the top. And the reason I put this down was because there's too many raspberries to be able to just put cages around them to keep the chickens from scratching them up. Chickens can't scratch this. It catches their feet. So eventually they just stop trying. The only problem is little feet. You can see how this edge wants to stay up. So you kind of have to weight it down with something. I don't know, can you see my dirt? I've got silt here in the back just like I do in the front because of the wind blowing it from the neighbors, and so it's like concrete. And these raspberries, now that it's become warmer, I'm watering them really heavily. It definitely helps where I've had mulch, and I think they're probably going to be okay, but you can see that some of them are distressed already and died. And so the garlic seems to do fine in this kind of situation. But raspberries have really shallow roots that spread out horizontally rather than vertically. And so they're all feeder roots, like for fruit feeder roots, like fruit trees. You know how their feeder roots for making fruit go out horizontally and then they have a long taproot? Well, the raspberries don't have necessarily the long taproot. Once they get old and established, they'll have one big root that kind of goes down. So maybe that's what it would be. But the young ones are just kind of all horizontal. So with the really shallow roots, you have to water frequently until they get established. This is the 5th time I have planted raspberries. I have been successful with raspberries in the past. At our old house, I had raspberries, just crazy raspberries that I planted myself, and they fruited well, and I took the babies and I transplanted them to another spot and they did well. I think the difference is that I had already worked my soil. I had a small yard. I had fertile soil that I'd worked on with manure and a rototiller, and then I mulched it. But on top of that, I only had 1/10 of an acre to water. So it wasn't really a problem of getting water to places. So this is water not from my well, but from the setup that I have in the front that I showed you previously. That was from the flooding system. So if you're in an area that doesn't have ditches and you don't have flood water, that part doesn't really apply to you, I guess. But if you're in the arid states and they have flood watering and you're buying new property, the most important thing you can check is whether or not you have water rights. If you have water rights, you can flood irrigate and you can keep things watered. If you don't have flood water, it means you have to water everything off of your well. And in some spots here in our area, that's not a problem because we have subwater that comes because of the flood irrigating. The flood irrigating raises all of our water tables, and some people have wells that could be 8 feet deep and they'd still have plenty of water, which is really gross. You don't want your well that shallow because then you have things filtering into it, but not enough filtration, so it's dirty water. But so they can water off of their wells all the time. We can't. Our well is 80 feet down and it's plenty. We don't need it to be any deeper than that. But here, if I was to use sprinklers and just sprinkle everything, yeah, I was doing it day and night and it still wasn't enough water this summer that our well went dry twice. So flooding in our area is really the only way to get enough water into it, because mulch will keep water in, but only if the water is there first. It can keep water in. It doesn't actually create water. And so this is something I didn't know our first 2 years. I thought that if I put mulch on, that the little bit of rain we got and when I watered, it would be enough to hold the moisture in, but it's not, because with the silt, you go 2 inches down and you hit dry. So unless you flood it really good initially, there's nothing for that mulch to hold in. It's just dry. So hopefully all these raspberries make it. Even if a couple make it here and there of the different varieties, that's good enough, because as they get established, they'll start to make babies, and we'll have more to transplant to other areas, and it'll thicken in. So I'm not discouraged as long as some of them make it, it'll be okay. The other thing is Don't you love our mess right here? So we're trying to get the rest of this deck out. I'm really tempted to leave these, to leave this up and to see if I can slant a roof here and actually have this be my winter shelter for the goats. It would be really, really nice if I could have them closer to the house, and they do much better back here in the backyard than they do in the shed over on the east side, because we get so much more sunshine here. If they're over on this side, the unfortunate thing is they will get a lot of wind from the west, from the southwest. And so I'll have to think about that. If I can preserve some of this, it would need to be slanted. So the roof would have to be raised up a bit onto the white siding probably, and then slanted down. Or we could just take all of this out and I could put a fence in, and we could just bring one of their clear see-through calf hutches in here. Maybe that's the better deal. Because the problem with this part of the deck was it's long and it's tall and it had the sidings on it, and I had to come out and shovel this like 3 times a day when we had heavy snow, because otherwise it would collapse the deck eventually. Like you can see back there. Maybe you can't see it. Anyway, it's bowed. Like at that end, it's straight up next to the wall, but you get to the middle here and it's dropped down by 2 inches, and then you get up to that part and it's back up next to the wall. So it bowed, all that snow bowed the deck. And they didn't put a support in the middle of the deck here so that it would help support it. It just was one long expanse. So you already know I kept rabbits under here. It was a really good shade for them. But right now the crabapple tree has been shading the rabbits really, really well, so I haven't had to worry about that. So we have all this wood that can be used for like burning in the wood stove, and these big long pieces will be used as more lumber to make other projects like rabbit hutches. This is, I don't know, did I show you guys how I hung these under my deck with those hooks? It worked so well. But we still have this part over here that I can hang the rabbits under if I needed to. So that wouldn't be a problem. I prefer to have them out here because with this short of a roof, it was really hard for me to get in and out. And we'll keep these shelves probably for putting buckets and stuff in. Even if I put the goats in there, they probably won't bother them too much. Or if they do, oh well, I just put them back up on the shelves. Because it's really hard to move water in the winter. We don't use a water heater, because it's like $60 a month to run one of those water heaters. So I don't mind coming out and hauling water to them. And the only thing is I don't really want them on this side of the building. This is where all the wind hits. I'd much rather have them where they were last year, because it's very warm and sheltered from the wind because of the gazebo, which is now the summer kitchen. So I don't know. I guess when we run out of projects, we'll come and take this down. But it wouldn't, you know, if we took some of these that are still supports and put them up here and filled that in, that would actually make a really good high fence for the goats. And leave this here and yeah, we could. We wouldn't have to put the only thing is we'd probably get a lot of snow in here, because the snow would come off the field and come in here and blow and go up and then down. But maybe we could try it for winter and just see. We'd have to clean it all out and then put in a partial wall under there so the snow wasn't blowing in there. But it would totally work, and I wouldn't have to put up an ugly cow panel fence in here. Anyway, you guys tell me what you think. I think that would totally work. Maybe I'm crazy. There's probably no maybe about it. We'd have sunshine too. Anyway, at that point, I would probably take these stairs out. I made these stairs out of pallets and old wood. I'd probably take these stairs out and but that could totally work in the winter, especially if I've only got 2 or 3 goats. think 3 goats, it would be a bit too much. What you doing, Paigey? I wish I knew how to make this thing focus. Anyway, the other thing I was going to show you, okay, so that's why this is such a mess back here. The rest of the yard, the mess there, I guess the rest of it is mess too, but this here just looks like a mess. And it's kind of dangerous because we've got little pieces of wood everywhere. Okay, so I'm going to show you, these are Nanking cherries that I planted, I think 2 years ago. This one is sad. You can see that it's starting to get some little brown coloring in it. And it's kind of small. And you have this one here, and the leaves are bigger and it's greener. Maybe you can't tell. Anyway. All of these little ones, like this one, is planted the same year and it has fruit on it. And it's not really turning brown. So that other one is struggling a bit. I think I'm going to water these, even though they're fine under the mulch and they look like they're doing pretty good. I am going to water these ones. It'll be the first time they will have been watered. I don't know if I watered them last year or not. I don't remember. But it'll be the first time they've been watered this year, and they were planted. I don't think I planted them last year. I think I planted them the year before. But I can't swear to that. I'd have to go look in my journal. So I need to water those. I'm going to water the strawberries again. These are the strawberries that were underneath the hoary cress, and also the garlic. This one is all garlic. And this one has strawberries in it. I just can't see them. They seem to actually do better if I leave the weeds in there. Is that something? Look how big they are compared. Look how big that strawberry is compared to the strawberries that were in the one I weeded. I find that really interesting. Here's my dead one. So the difference between this tree and this tree is not the damage that was done to it. And I really wonder if we had deer in here last night. Because this is damaged this morning. This one got damaged and that one got damaged. The difference is I took a sheet and wrapped it around where it was damaged, and it kept it moist. And so the bark see how much bark was left around this one? Just a tiny, tiny slice. Can you see that? That's all the regular bark that was there, but I wrapped a sheet around it and then tied it with twine and left it over the winter. When it came back, this one I left bare. I did not wrap anything around it. Yes, it's coming back from the roots. I need to, what's the word? I need to do something, what is it called? Grafting. I need to graft something onto it so that the rest of the trunk will live, because it's obvious the roots are fine and I need to graft it soon. I've never grafted anything before. Anyway, so I wanted to show you that. And I'm really aggravated with the chickens because they came in and dug stuff up. So I'm going to take this mama and my other mama and I'm going to throw them over the fence and put them over there. And that way the babies can get back and forth. But the mamas who are the more aggressive scratchers won't be able to get back and forth. They'll have to stay out there. So I'm going to feed this to the rabbits. They really like fruit tree. If this was cherry or peach, I believe, you don't want to give them pit tree branches because they have cyanide in them. And this is another way that I protect something that I want to grow nicely and keep the chickens out. I put it in a tomato cage and I put a bucket with the bottom cut out, and it keeps them from getting in there to scratch. Anything else? These raspberries are doing well too. And again, the ducks love the comfrey. They ate it all. And they got into my greenhouse and ate my tomato plants too. So I need to get some fences up, or not some fences, some gates up to put around the garden so they can't get in and out. And so one more project while I'm out here watering. It's kind of a cool day. I've still got my hat on. And it looks good, doesn't it? Back here, you can tell the difference where you've already got some shade and some things growing and how willing things are to just take off and be alive. Wow, the shade helps.